Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today we are going to be chat about eyeshadow palettes and if I would repurchase them or purchase them if they were released today. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's video is going to be another thought experiment. I like doing these videos and I've seen Battybean doing this a lot, or she's now called Battybean, right? She's now called Battybean. But yeah, she has been doing these videos a lot. I love watching them, and in it she takes a couple of eyeshadow palettes from her collection and she pretends that the palette is released right now, and she asks herself the question, if this were released right now, would I still be interested in buying it? So that's the thought experiment we're doing today. I don't believe it's her video ID though, so I'm gonna make sure to link down below to the original creator if I can as well. So yeah, that's going to be the thought experiment. I've selected 10 eyeshadow palettes to chat about today. So let's get cracking. In case you're new here and you're unfamiliar with the channel, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I love coming on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, accessories, reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. So if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, then just click the subscribe button down below and you can join my little family on here. So since I was talking about Battybean, I thought, why not chat about her palette? So this is the It's Freaking Bats, and Battybean, at the time still called Battybean, did this palette in collaboration with Shroud Cosmetics. Shroud has an amazing formula, and this palette had a lot of problems. It was very hyped up. Everybody who follows her wanted to own this palette because she has this really lovely grungy aesthetic, and that's also what this palette gives you. And I knew the formula from Shroud as well because I already owned 2 of their palettes by the time this dropped. I already owned the Arcana, I owned the Creepy Cute, so I knew that this was going to be good formula. And then of course what happened with this palette was that it was put on pre-order and it took months to ship. I think it took my palette, I ordered it in like October and I didn't get it until April the next year, because by the time it was shipped it took another like 4 to 6 weeks for it to get to me. And I do have to say that because I had to wait for this so long, it kind of been on the back burner because this color story in April wasn't exactly my cup of tea. So it took me some time to try it. Judging by the color story, I would definitely give this a repurchase because I love these kind of shades. It's got a periwinkle, this limey green, it's got some tealy shades, a really nice deep plum. It doesn't have a boring black as its deepest shade. A really stunning purple shimmer, another really stunning purple shimmer, and we get this like murky yellowish green, which all of these shades speak to me. The only issue I have with this is that once it's on my eyes, the colors that you think will go together don't really go together. It's almost as if the mattes, once I blend them on my super fair skin, it just doesn't really have the same undertone. Everything turns really murky and very muddy on me, which is what I don't love. So to me, this is not a standalone palette, which I kinda could have predicted just by looking at it. So for me, sadly, if this was released today, if this came out this Halloween time and it was put on pre-order again, I probably wouldn't buy it. Yes, the color story speaks to me. That's why I got it. That's why I would still purchase it. But the way this palette came together, for me personally, wasn't entirely perfect, which is why I would not give this a repurchase. Then an oldie but a goodie. I wanted to make sure there was a nice mix here of indie and newer things and older things. We have the Tartelette in Bloom by Tarte. And this is the kind of palette that I've seen so many people decluttering in their makeup collections because it's boring. But here's the thing. This palette is so perfect if you don't have that much makeup yet and you're trying to dip your toe in and you want to learn how to do a look, because each row is a look. Each row has a shimmer, each row has a dark shade to deepen things up, each row has a crease shade. I mean, for me, this is just, if I don't know what to do, this is foolproof makeup every single time. It's got a lovely formula. The shimmers are more satiny leaning, not too metallic, but still sparkly enough for it to really make a difference. So for me, I know I would repurchase this for sure. If this were released today, no matter how boring it is, I love me a good neutral palette. Plus, this isn't just warm tones or just cool tones. This is smack in the middle neutral, because we get a full row of warm tones, a full row of neutral shades, and a full row of cool tones as well. So this is one of the most perfect palettes in my collection, which is why I still have it around. And that's why I would definitely purchase this if this was released today. I don't care how boring everybody thinks this looks. I like boring. Call me a basic bee, but I love me some boring eyeshadow because it's just what's gonna work really well on a day-to-day basis. If I just need to slap something on because I need to head out the door to work, put on a red lip and you're good to go. The Tartelette in Bloom is definitely a favorite. Something more affordable then. Catrice Pro Slim Vintage Soul. I believe discontinued. I don't think it's here anymore, especially not where I live. Maybe in the US you might still be able to find this. This is only out for a hot minute, so I'm not sure how many people got their hands on it, but this is one of the best Catrice eyeshadow palettes that have ever been released in terms of quality, in terms of color story. This is one of the first times where I feel that they didn't really like dupe something or try to recreate something that's already around. They really try to create their own color stories often with these Pro Slim palettes, which is what I appreciate. So many more affordable brands just dupe more expensive palettes, which is kind of boring. I like brands to come out with something more unique, and that's definitely what this is. We have some reddish tone, like burgundy leaning brownie tone shades. Like, they're not fully brown, but they do have a little bit more to it than a standard brown would have. We get some greenish leaning shades here. We get some cool tones. We get some rosy neutrals. It just has a really good balance between deeper shades and lighter shades. The formula is stunning. I would definitely repurchase this if it was still on the market. If this was released right now, you know I love trying out Catrice eyeshadow and Catrice makeup in general. So I've tried every single palette that has come out in this line, and this is one of my favorites. Then another more affordable option, the Book of Magic from Beauty Bay. So Beauty Bay is known for doing these large-ish palettes that are not that expensive. I believe they retail for about 15 to 70 euros. This was the first one I got, and it was only around for like one season. I think it was their like Christmas release 2 years ago almost. And this is the one that I've kept in my collection. But I'm gonna have to be very honest here. I don't think that I'm going to be buying any more Beauty Bay palettes because I don't love the formula. Now, if you like boom, kapow, pigment to the high heavens, you're gonna love this. This is the kind of makeup that so many people in the beauty community online love because it's very pigmented, it's very opaque, the shimmers are incredibly shimmery, like full-on metallic in one swipe. So you think that's really good eyeshadow quality. The thing is, it kind of falls off my eyes. Like with the mattes, like they did a full-on matte pastel palette, that was a disaster. This formula is a lot better, but I feel that the shimmers are very sort of like gel-like, and they're very difficult to blend. Like you really need your fingers to make them like work. And that's usually the best part about the palette, but as you see here, you don't get that many actual shimmers. It's a lot of mattes. And I don't love the mattes. I've kept this around because of the color story. I love me some blue, greens, and purples. That's like my favorite colorful shade, so that's why this is still around. And you get some good things in here. You really do. You get some good neutrals just to blend it in. I really like this shade up here, but I would not repurchase this if I knew what this formula was like. Now that I know it, I know I'm not going to be buying any more because I've tried two of the newer ones that were released last year, and I'm just not in love. I don't understand. Like, I would much rather pay a little bit more and get eyeshadow that I find easier to work with, that is easier to blend, that looks more natural on my eyes than this really fully, like this looks great in a picture. Like if you're on Instagram, if you're on TikTok and you do your makeup for camera, this looks amazing. In real life, it just looks like you're a punch in the face. I'm terribly sorry. Next up, we have Nabla's Cutie Palette in Coral. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I would repurchase this, even though this was one that I didn't initially buy. Initially, I think I only got the Cutie Platinum. I didn't get all of these at once. Then I tried the formula and I was like, oh. And Angelica Nuquist was raving about this, but I was like, red and pink? I'm not entirely sure that's going to look very good on me. But then I tried it and I pulled some stunning looks out of it, especially because the darkest shade here isn't a black, it's just a really good neutral colored brown, and that really ties the palette together for me. We get some really stunning like shimmering shades in here. These two shades are just fun to play around with. You can really tone down this red if you blend in that very vibrant peachy pink. You can just really make it work. I feel it works really well on my skin tone. You can really mix and match the shades. It's nice and curated. I would definitely repurchase this if this came out today. And then we get Miss Pat McGrath. This is the Divine Rose Mothership 7. I believe we're now at number 11 or something, number 10, I don't know. There's quite a few out right now. And this was one that I bought after trying some other ones from this line. And I thought, since it's quite light, I think this is going to be perfect for me. It wasn't. This Divine Rose palette I should have just left in a store. So no, I would not purchase this again. If this were released today, I think there are other Mothership palettes that have far more interesting shades that work far better for me. I have tried a couple that are actually unexpected in how well they worked for me. The reason why this doesn't work is because these two shimmering shades are far too warm toned. These pull very warm toned as well. So while like in a lot of pictures, it looked a little bit more cool tone leaning, but these are quite warm toned and it's quite deep as well. I'd rather go with something like the Divine Rose 2, which has a lot more vibrant shades that actually works better on me. It only has one shade that I really don't love, but here it's like these two, and then I don't think I would ever really go back to this bronzy taupe shade. I can wear it for sure. This is a little bit too warm toned. Like I like these two shades and I love these two shades. The rest of the palette just doesn't really bring it home for me. And for how expensive this is, yeah, I want something that I can just love and adore and just hang on to for the rest of my life. I was hoping this could be like the rose tone palette to like just be the rose tone palette of my collection, and it just wasn't. And then of course we got two other ones that I do love. So yeah, this one doesn't hold a candle to some of my favorite rose tone palettes, which is why this one is just one that I would not repurchase. We have Juvia's Place Saharan 2. Now this is one of my favorite warm tone palettes, I'm not gonna lie. I do really like this. It's just that it's getting a little older right now in my collection, so I'm not sure, like, come a next declutter, do I want to keep it around? I'm not entirely sure. I've also switched one of the shades out. This red wasn't in this palette. There was a peachy tone there. This red comes from the Afrique, in case you were wondering. So yeah, this is a good warm toned color story. It actually has everything you need. It's got like a cranberry shade, and it's got like a coppery shade, and it's got a bronze shade, and it's got a rose gold. It's got this really vibrant orange tone. It's got something that's a little bit more neutral toned, an actual neutral warm tone. Like, it's got a lot going for it, and I've always liked how you get this green toned grayish shade to really tone everything down and make it work. So yeah, if this were released today, I don't think though that I would buy it, even though it's one of my favorite warm tones, because I have just learned that warm tones aren't necessarily my forte. I don't get a whole lot of use out of it. If I hadn't purchased this at the time, it would just never have gotten into my collection at all, to be quite fair. So yeah, the Saharan the Saharan by Juvia's is a lovely palette. I still like it in my collection and what it does there. It definitely fills some sort of gap, but I don't think it's a necessary palette to have, especially with all of the warm tones that are on the market right now. I don't think this is a must-have if this was released right now. And I actually feel quite similarly about this controversial opinion, Modern Renaissance by ABH. You can just see by how little I've used this palette. Like, there are hardly any dents. what my opinion is of this palette. This was just not perfect for me. It was too warm toned. The only shades I really like going back to are like the reddish tones and like this pinky shade. And is that antique bronze? Yes, antique bronze. Like those are the shades. Those 4 shades. That's what I use this palette for till this day. This was far too orange. These were far too yellow toned. I never understood that shade. Golden ochre. It looks horrible on me. I do kind of like warm taupe as a bit of a transition moment, but I prefer using Buon Fresco. So for me, the Mono Renaissance has just never been truly perfect. And with how many warm tone palettes have been released right now, I don't think this stands the test of time. It was hyped up at the time. That's why I bought it, because everybody kept saying how good a formula this was. And yes, it's a really nice formula, but I have other ABH palettes that I just love a little bit more. And as much as people raved about this and how many people loved on this so hard, I just never fully got it because it is just a little bit too warm toned for my liking. Can I get stunning looks out of it? For sure, but it's not a must-have in my collection. So I would not be repurchasing this if it were released today. And then we have a Glam Shop palette. This is Niebieski 2020. Niebieski is Polish for blue because Glam Shop is a Polish indie brand. So if you are in Europe and you're looking for like fairly affordable, like it's not super cheap, it's like around the 20 euro mark for a 9-pan like this. But if you want stellar quality, then definitely check out Glam Shop. I really like this palette. It's blue tones. It's really stunning. We get this like deeper, murky, like tealy shade, which I love. It's just that I feel it should, like, it needs one more shimmer. Like, we get mattes here, we get mattes here, and we get another matte here. This is a really stunning navy matte. It's one of my favorite navy mattes in my collection. So would I miss this palette? I think I would. But I don't think it's a must-have because I have other blues in other palettes. I have the Bubblegum from BH Cosmetics. I have some blues in the Ace Beauté Oceanic palette that I really love. And I feel with blue, like, it's blue. You can only do so many things with a blue shadow. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, I also have the Nabla Cutie Midnight palette. So I've got quite a lot of other blues in my collection. So is this a must-have? I mean, I just bought a couple of palettes in Color Stories that appealed to me at the time. I wanted to try Glam Shop, and this was one of the things that I wanted to try. I really like it. It's gonna stay in my collection for sure, but I don't think I would repurchase it again because of just the fact that I have so many other blue tone palettes. And while this is really good and really nice, in terms of blue tones, I feel there just isn't that much variation, and that's why this is not a must-have in my collection. And finally, the 10th palette I wanted to mention today, Colourpop's Mint to Be. Now, when I open this up, it's no longer the same color story as it used to have because I put some shades of the Just My Look into this palette, and this could actually, like, whenever I would be featuring any of my Colourpop palettes, I'm probably going to say the same thing, especially if it's one of the monochromatic ones. I don't think I should have bought all of those. I mean, I've reorganized pretty much every single Colourpop eyeshadow palette I've ever owned, save for like 2 at this point. And everything else I've been mixing and like taking things out and sometimes even like breaking shadows apart and putting completely different shades in the pans, and it's a whole thing. Like, none of my Colourpop palettes still look like they originally came, especially the many of the monochromatic ones. So was this really like a must-have? I don't think so. I got sucked into the Colourpop hype. I wanted to try them. Those monochromatic palettes seems like a really good idea, but I think we're all just a bit over monochromatic palettes. And while this still is a monochromatic palette, it's no longer as light as it used to be. It now has a bit more depth and definition, which is what I prefer. I do like my palettes to be versatile, even if it's just one color. And that was my main like gripe with a lot of Colourpop palettes. Plus, I feel that now they do bigger pans, the quality has changed. So I personally haven't bought anything from Colourpop since Black Friday. And I don't think I'm gonna be buying from Colourpop anytime soon. Maybe this Black Friday when they do a good enough deal. But so far, I haven't really seen them do anything that I feel is new. I feel they are rehashing what they're doing. and I don't think that if they were to redo any of these monochromatic palettes that I would pick them up. So this would definitely not warrant a repurchase in my collection. So those were the 10 eyeshadow palettes I wanted to mention for you today. Let me know in a comment down below if you own any of these, whether you would repurchase them, or if you don't own them yet, if you are interested in buying any of these. Let me know in a comment down below. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I'm currently doing eyeshadow palette month, and I'm going to keep this train rolling for a couple more days, weeks, whenever this video is going live. So if you'd like to stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!